Well, welcome to the reading for the beginning of the second to the last week in October. Kind of 1.5, right? It's called Music in the Soul. It's for October 20th, 2025. And here it is. The first quote is from J. Arthur Twine, Twyne, who says, "Our teaching is a science, an art, a technique you can learn, and that will enable you to have a fuller enjoyment of the good things of life." And he means rounded, complete, not just material things, but spiritual, mental, physical. And this is from Ernest Holmes, written, I guess, published the year after he passed away, 1961. Pages 260 to 261 are called Discover a Richer Life. Discover a Richer Life. And this is what Ernest Holmes has to say on the subject of music in the soul. We seem to be the product of our environment, but this is a superficial viewpoint. While we think of everyone as having ordinary, commonplace talents, the first thing we know, an Emerson or an Einstein appears, or a Buddha or a Jesus. And all the world marvels and say they were not made of the same kind of stuff as you and I. He says, this is where we make our biggest mistake. For in reality, you will never discover anything outside you greater than you yourself are. Even the words and acts of the great mean nothing unless we understand them. The things they say and do have no significance until we grasp their meaning. And we couldn't grasp their meaning unless there was something in us already equipped to seize on the truths that they taught and to make them our own. It says, when you go to a symphony, you don't just go to see others perform or to hear a great artist sing or a great musician play. What you really go for is that they awaken within you something that corresponds to and with what they are doing. And they give you back to yourself. As I said, Discover a Richer Life, 1961, pages 260, 261. And this is Reverend Jesse, who says, just as a rainbow exists as much in the observing eye as in the wet but sunlit sky, so beauty of any kind is an energy transfer, and the audience becomes the performance. Something in us understands, even when the material is outside of our expertise. When we come up with our own meanings for others' work, they are not correct or incorrect, they're just expansions of their work and our capacity, which is ingenious on both our parts. So it takes the performer and the listener, the watcher, to actually make this whole thing complete. That the really only reason for their performance is for our own enjoyment and everyone else. And our interpretation of everything is our own interpretation. It's neither good nor bad nor indifferent. The fact that many of us like different kinds of music doesn't make one kind of music bad or rubbish and the other wonderful. I mean, I personally happen to like what's commonly called classical music, which is really serious music. But I also like pop, I like jazz, I like lots of different genres. Some things I'm not too fond of. You know, I don't like it when people scream off key or just scream at the top of their voices when they're singing. You know, a soprano at an opera sings at a very high pitch, but it's still music. Some of the stuff I hear, to me, is just not music. But obviously, because it's very popular, it is to other people, and it's our own individual interpretations of everything we see, think, feel, hear, that really counts. It's our interpretation. So that is my interpretation of what's going on. So you heard Ernest Holmes, you heard Arthur Twine, you heard Reverend Dr. Jesse Jennings. So, but the real point is, what do you make of it? When you see a sunset, what goes on inside you? When you see a double rainbow, for instance, what do you think? What do you feel? It's all about our response to what we see outside, to the external stimuli. So there you are. The divine spirit is flowing through me in an individual way, and I accept the genius of my own being. And that's the key at the end there. The divine spirit is flowing through me in an individual way, and I accept the genius of my own being. We're each individuals, we're each expressions of the divine, and we each interpret things in our own individual way. And that's good, because, hey, if we're all the same, it will be a very boring life. I promised to read from Murphy, the Human Whisperer. I will a bit later in the day. I don't want to tag it onto this. I want to do it separately because it's worth its own reading. But I will later today do that. Things got in the way yesterday, but today I'm going to do it. So if you're tuned into that kind of thing, I assure you, it's a different way of looking at things. Murphy the Dog Whisperer. So look out for that later today. And until next time, namaste.